Welcome to this free video lesson by Talkly.co.uk for IGCSE First Language English. In this video lesson, I'm going to show you an A-star narrative that I wrote in order to show you that actually a story should be a moment in time. You do not have time in your exam or in coursework to write a fully fledged dystopian novel that has a fully formed beginning, middle and end where you explore the characters' backstories and the world that they're living in. You don't have time. You only have time to have a moment, a snapshot from a story. So this video lesson aims to help exemplify that to you. Just a heads up that if you're interested in studying with me and getting feedback from me, that I will be doing Talkly full-time from September 2024. I will be doing one-to-one tutoring and small group classes. If you are interested in studying with me and getting some essay feedback, then sign up to my tutoring waitlist. The link is in the description below. Do sign up ASAP because it's been open for like 3 weeks and I've already had over 40 people sign up. And I was only planning on doing 6 to 8 one-to-ones per week and a few group classes. So do make sure that you sign up if you are interested. This is what the tutoring waitlist looks like on my website. Don't forget it is for a September 2024 start for IGCSE and IB English. Hope to see you there. Getting stuck into it then, what do I mean when I say a moment in time? Well, remember that you get scored for 2 different areas, content and structure and style and accuracy. Now, this lesson is going to be focusing just on content and structure. Style and accuracy means how accurate is your writing, how imaginative and fluent and beautiful are your language choices. Content and structure then means, do you have realistic characters? Do you have an atmospheric setting? Do you have effective dialogue that sounds like the characters and contributes something to your story? Are your paragraphs well organised? Do you have a clear plot structure? And do you have a powerful climax? We're really focusing on these last 2 today. So if you've studied with me before, you've watched my other video lessons, then you will have seen my plot mounted before. This is what an ideal short story would look like. You would have an introduction, an inciting incident, rising tension, climax and resolution. If you want to watch my narrative writing video lesson where I go over this in more depth, I will link it this way. But it's not always possible to do this in a short story, right? So in fact, actually, if you think of a larger text, if you think of Harry Potter or something like that, your plot mountain looks like this. So your aim is to take one of the mini mountains within your mountain as your short story. You can't show what happened in the first Wizarding War where James and Lily Potter were killed by Voldemort. You can't show what Harry's childhood was like. You can't show him going to Hogwarts and you can't show him getting the Philosopher's Stone. You can't show the resolution at the end with Dumbledore. You can tell I'm a big Harry Potter fan here. Not a big JK fan, but a big Harry Potter fan. But what you could do is you could show a moment from the novel. You could show the moment when he finds out he's a wizard. You could show the moment when he releases the snake from the zoo to attack his horrible cousin. So all of these little moments within this wider story would all be great options for a short story. You are aiming for a moment in time. Think of it like you are taking an episode, a snapshot, or a clip from a larger narrative. You can still consider what came before, and in fact you should consider what came before for your story to feel realistic. So you can still think about what your character's backstory was, what happened to them before the story even started. And you can also think about what the world they live in is like. Is it a poor place? Is it a futuristic place? Are the people happy? But you just might not have the words or the time to actually show that. Similarly, you can also know what would come after your story ends, but you're not going to have time to show, in the beginning there was a little girl who was an orphan and she was very poorly treated and the kingdom was very poor but the royal family were very rich, and you're not going to have time. But if you know, then that can make it feel a little bit more realistic to your reader. Just as a disclaimer though, even though you are taking this moment in time, right? You're taking this moment from your mountain, right? A moment from the mountain. It must still have a climax. Look, I've circled one with a peak. So you do still need to have a climax to score highly. You need to have this moment of intense tension. Not very well phrased there, but yes, this moment of intensity where you're resolving some of the questions, where you're exciting your reader. You do need to have that still. Part of this can all come down to, how do we even define what a short story is? So This might help you to understand why I'm talking about a moment in time, because a short story is different from a novel in that it is characterized by its singularity. Singularity meaning one, single. So a short story should have a single dominant character who is confronted with a single dominant problem for which there is a single dominant outcome. So you will have one main character who faces one main problem that has one main outcome. This is really, really important. If you try to have many characters, like more than 2 or 3, and many problems and many outcomes, how on earth are you going to achieve that in 800 words or a 1-hour exam? It's just not possible. So although I know some of you guys are very imaginative and very ambitious, it's time to scale back your ambition. You cannot be too ambitious because you won't be able to do it well in the constraints of a timed exam or in the constraints of an 800-word coursework story. Let me show you guys my example that I wrote. So my story is called The Mage's Apprentice. Mage, in case you didn't know, is a witch or wizard. So yeah, the witch. And an apprentice is someone that learns or studies from someone. So the student. So basically, the witch's student, just in case you didn't know. As we read through this, do be thinking, how am I showing a moment in time? How have I got a climax within what probably could be a larger story? And remember that these are the things that you get marks for. Having an engaging plot, having features of narrative writing like characterization, description, dialogue and setting, having correct paragraphing, plot is coherent, plot makes sense, and builds towards an effective climax. For style, sophisticated vocabulary, variety of punctuation, variety of sentences, and the register, the tone should sound like a story and not like an article or a speech. And I should be writing with accurate spelling, punctuation, and grammar. The Mage's Apprentice. The full moon stared down in dismay as Liesl sighed. She had only a moment until the rite must be performed, yet the leaves on the ancient oak tree refused to regrow. Geisterholt's forest remained barren. Bare branches twisted their arthritic fingers into the gloom of the blackened sky. Spirits of the arcane, heed my command, she thought, pressing her fingers into the mossy bark of the tree. Bloom once again, renew these seasons and accept me as your mage. Bah, she huffed, slapping her hands against the ground. A murder of crows took to the sky, screeching in protest at Liesl's disturbance of the silent forest. You think the mothers will spring forth new life to those who abuse it so? Liesl jumped. She hadn't heard Hilda's approach. Well, she supposed she hadn't approached so much as materialized. Hilda was draped in decadent velvet skirts and a cloak of poison ivy, looking down at Liesl with something close to amusement. But surely there was no merriment to be found tonight, on Hilda's last night as mage. There couldn't be anything particularly amusing about stepping down from your post to, well, Liesl didn't know what would become of Hilda when she assumed her role. Her apprenticeship had seemed like something that would never end, yet here they were on the night of the full moon, with Liesl's hands gripping that wizened oak tree, and still she couldn't make it spring forth with life. In a flurry of frustration, Liesl commanded a flash of lightning to rip through the sky. It is easier to bring forth destruction than it is to coax the world into living again, mused Hilda, her face infuriatingly impassive. Sensing Liesl's angst, Hilda softly tugged Liesl's hands free from the oak tree and clasped their hands together. Hilda's hands had grown older, even since daybreak, Liesl realised, skin papery and delicate with sudden age. The end was coming. She felt Hilda's magic hum through the sinews of her flesh, felt the comfort and whisperings and assurances of her spell. A cloud passed overhead, obscuring the moon from sight. Geisterholt's forest abruptly sunk into shadow. Perhaps it was this darkness that gave Liesl the bravery to ask, "What will become of you, mage?" "What becomes of us all? I shall return." "And what will become of me?" Moonlight filtered through the rickety woods again, and so Liesl saw the way Hilda's eyes burned with a fierce sadness as she replied, "You will have your time, just as I had, as the mothers willed us to do. You will make the seasons spring forth, imbue these lands with life, and protect our sacred grounds with all your might." Liesl swallowed. "Without you." Hilda did not respond, but her spell brushed up against Liesl's awareness, a warm hug on a bitter winter's day. As much as Liesl had always known that this day would come, that there could only ever be one mage. She hadn't truly understood the cavernous depths of being alone in the world. True, one day she would have her own apprentice replace her when the time came. But until then, would she usher in new seasons and watch flowers blossom while Hilda just ceased to be? Though she defied the laws of nature every day, something about this seemed so unnatural and cruel that it stole the breath from her lungs. "I won't do it," gritted out Liesl, too cold with fear and anger to feel the tears pouring down her cheeks and onto the forest floor. "Why can't there be more than one mage? Or why must there be a mage at all? I just can't do it." Yet despite Liesl's protests, Hilda's body became ever more crooked with the creeping onset of age. The lines around her eyes deepened and her plump cheeks became gaunt. "There are some things you cannot control, dear girl. This is one of them. I must return to the earth, and you must replace me. As the sun rises and sets, so too must we. To try to strive for anything more is a deep cruelty to ourselves. Fighting the inevitable will only cause more pain in the end." Hilda dropped to her knees, cracking twigs as her diminishing body fell. "Liesl, it is time." And so it was that Liesl placed her palms onto the oak tree once more, her heart fixed on the potential life beneath the soil, the hope of the sun rising for another day. The spirits came forth now, casting a glimmering violet light through the forest and shaking the branches with a low death rattle. A single tulip bud struggled free from the ground. Spring would come to Geisterholt's forest. Liesl felt her body tingle as she knew that she had assumed the mage's powers and Hilda was nowhere to be seen. Now with her deepened perception, Liesl cast out her awareness and realised with a jolt that Hilda, though no longer of this world, could be felt in every living creature for as far as she could brush against. Hilda was alive in the rings of the tree bark, in the warm snuffling nests of animals coming out of hibernation, in the trickle of water through the ravine. But not just Hilda, no. Liesl could sense the gentle touch of all the mages that had come before Hilda, and she could sense a home waiting for her, too, when the time came. Casting her eyes up to the oak tree, now shimmering with green leaves, Liesl smiled. "I understand now. Thank you, Hilda. Thank you, Mother." So if we think about this story from the singularity, what was my single character, single problem, and single outcome? So the single character, the one that I'm focusing the most on, is the mage's apprentice, Liesl. Yes, I've got a second character because you need someone for her to interact with, but she is my protagonist. She is my main character. My single problem then is that there can only be one mage, and her apprenticeship will end. The whole way through, the question at the heart of the text is, what will happen to the current mage, her mother? And the single outcome is that when Liesl assumes the role of mage and Hilda disappears, actually Hilda isn't gone for good. The mage, Hilda, and her magic have returned to the earth. So she will go into the earth, she will go into everything that's living. That's what gives Liesl her power, and that is where Liesl will go when she too returns to the earth. So it kind of ends with this message of hope and optimism. Like, death, essentially, is what it's a metaphor for. Death is inevitable. It's inescapable. It's not something that we can fight. It's something that will happen to all of us. But actually, it doesn't need to be such a pessimistic tone. It can be that we will die, but those people are still with us in some way or another. So if we go back to the story and have a look at what makes this so good. Firstly, it is a moment in time, right? We could have had it, we could have seen Liesl's childhood. We could have seen her learning about magic to begin with. We could have seen her, did she always live in the forest, for example? We don't know, right? We don't need to show all of that. And similarly, we could have seen what happened afterwards. What will Liesl's life be like? Will she be happy? What will happen when her apprentice comes? Again, these are all things that might happen in a longer novel, but the short story is just a moment. So I picked one moment, actually, probably about 10 minutes in this person's life, the moment at which Liesl becomes mage and Hilda returns to the world. So that is the moment in time that I've picked out. Now, there are some other things that I'm doing really well, if I do say so myself. So one thing that I really wanted was, in terms of setting, I wanted to create this magical German forest, right? So I really wanted it to feel both magical and German. Very important to me. So how am I doing that? Well, firstly, I picked out their names. So Liza and Hilda are both German names. So the internet says. I knew a Liza once. She wasn't German. She was Malaysian, but still. And also the name of the forest, which Geisterholz, I think it means ghost woods. So even this, like Geister, ghost, relates back to the main message of the text about people dying, but they're still with us in some way. So that was actually quite deliberate. Oak trees are also things that commonly grow in German forests. And later on, it talks about tulip. Tulip, people associate with like Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and so on. But I'm told that tulips also grow very readily in Germany and that they are one of the first flowers that blooms in spring. So I also wanted it to feel quite magical. So I tried to include some language that sounded quite magical and ancient. So for example, we've got this image of the bare branches with their arthritic fingers. I thought that was quite a gothic image, and the fact that this is all happening in the woods at night time. If you study literature, this is called pathetic fallacy, when the setting represents or symbolizes something about the mood of the story. Even in terms of the language here, spirits of the arcane, and later on, the murder of crows. So I could have said a bunch of crows took off into the sky. The technical word is a murder, literally, but it also creates this tone, doesn't it, of this dark and gothic forest. Then in terms of characters, so we've got Hilda, who is this like wise, unemotional, but caring character. And she also speaks in a very formal, magical, Dumbledore-esque way. You think the mothers will spring forth new life, right? No one really talks like that, but it's realistic for this character. I've also created a little bit of backstory, like mothers, is that their gods? Is that why I've capitalized it? So again, I didn't need to explain it because it's just a moment in time, but it tells us something about this world. Even the fact like we're hinting that Hilda has materialized, like just bang, like transformed into teleported rather into this setting. I've not needed to explain that. I've not really explained the magic system. I've just hinted at it. So this is some nice world building as well. Then we're getting really to the tension. So part of the tension in the first half of the story really is, Lizel is doing a spell that she can't work. We don't know what the spell is about. So the first bit of tension is that. So let me write that on. No. So my first bit is the spell that she can't do. We don't know what it's about, and we don't know if she will be able to achieve it. So those are my first bits of tensions. But now we realize that something is going on. That Hilda is the current mage and it's going to be her last night. We don't know why, and we don't know what that means for the characters. Except as we get here, we start to realize actually it's not particularly amusing, and Lizel seems quite upset about it. This is probably what's stopping her from doing the spell. So now we've got more tension and questions of, okay, so Lizel will take over being mage. Hilda won't be mage anymore. This isn't something to be happy about. What is going to happen? So that is bringing forth this tension. Even in terms of the structure, I really wanted to show how frustrated and upset Lizel is. The fact that she's interrupting herself here. She's even making lightning rip through the sky. That there wasn't an oak tree, and still she couldn't make it spring forth with new life. So even my structure is showing her frustration and rising the tension in the story. Even though Lizel is very upset and frustrated, Hilda remains calm and composed. So her characterization is consistent and she's still speaking in the same style that she was before. So this makes her seem more realistic. Now we're getting a little bit deeper into it. We start to see even more tension occur where we realize that Hilda is suddenly getting old. Hilda's hands have grown older even since daybreak. So we've got some magic. Hilda is rapidly aging. We don't know why, but again, this is raising this tension and the stakes in the story. Her hands are suddenly papery and delicate. And this is probably, again, something that's really upsetting Lizel. Lizel in this part now gives voice to some of the questions that the reader has been having, and the fact that she can only ask them when it's dark again shows how upset Lizel is about this whole situation. So Lizel asks, what will become of you? To keep the tension, what becomes of us all? So she doesn't directly answer, because if she just said, oh, I'll return to the ground, but don't worry, you'll still be able to feel me, not very satisfying. It's not building up the tension. It would be too abrupt. So we're keeping the tension at a high here. And then we're really seeing what's upsetting Liesl, that Liesl is going to become mage, but she's going to be mage without Hilda. She's really afraid of being alone and what that will mean for her, which is made explicit down here where it says, well, what's going to happen? Okay, I'll be mage, but Hilda just won't be anymore. These new seasons will come, new flowers will grow, and I will have to watch that by myself and without my mage. And we see that Liesl is really reaching like this emotional climax here where she's saying, I just won't do it. I won't do it. So we're building up this tension. Liesl's just like, I cannot do it. It's all cruel. It's all unnatural. But Liesl doesn't have a choice because Hilda's body keeps getting older. It's got this onset of age. The lines are deepening, and down here she drops to the floor. Hilda drops to her knees. So Liesl is forced to act. Liesl has to assume the role of mage. She doesn't have a choice. Now we're reaching the actual climax in our story, as Liesl puts her hands onto the oak tree, which she did at the start of the story, but now she's going to be successful. She casts the spell. There's a glimmering violet light, so we're getting a sense of magic. And the tulip finally grows, so the magic has been successful. Spring will return. But what has happened to Hilda? Hilda has just disappeared. She's nowhere to be seen. So now Liesl is confronted with her worst fear, right? She's really scared. What's going to happen to you? I'm going to be all by myself. I'm going to watch flowers bloom and you won't be there with me. This exact situation has just happened. But in our resolution of the story, we realize, yes, you are alone, literally, but actually not just Hilda, but all of the other mages before you are in the earth. They are here with you in spirit, if not in body. So she realizes that Hilda is still alive in the rings of the tree bark, in the animals coming out of hibernation, in the trickle of water in the ravine. She can sense that all of this magic is there from the mages before her, and that when her time comes, she will go there too. But notice she's no longer scared. She talks about it in such a warm way. She can sense a home coming from her. And this leads to our realization at the end in our resolution. Liesl now realizes, I understand everything that you've done for me. I understand the sacrifice that I one day will have to take too. I understand. So she says, I understand now. Thank you, Hilda. Thank you, mother. It's a little bit ambiguous. Is Hilda actually her mother, or does she mean that metaphorically, like Mother Nature from one mage to the next? Didn't think that I needed to clear that up. I thought it was nice to leave that to the reader to decide. All of this together is a really effective story that would score highly. It would get full marks. But notice that I've really stuck to very carefully this singularity. Single character, single problem, single outcome with a moment in time. If you like this video lesson and you want to see more like this, do subscribe to my YouTube channel. But also, if you head over to my website, totally.co.uk, there is a full free IGCSE course on there for both reading and writing, with more video lessons and quizzes and worksheets and PowerPoints for narrative writing, descriptive writing, response to text, everything like that. You can find that all over there, completely free. You do need to sign up, but you don't need to put in any credit card details or anything like that. And if you are a teacher, then you'll also find some free teaching resources over there. Don't forget that I am going to be doing those live classes from September 2024, one-to-one, heavily limited. If you want one-to-one classes with me, sign up now. And small group classes. You can get together a small group of your classmates, and that way you would all be doing the same topic or the same text in the same time zone. So that could be a really cost-effective way of doing it. So if you are interested in doing that, do sign up very, very soon, like today, because I have had a lot of demand. I will be prioritizing people who are in compatible time zones with me. So basically, I'm looking at like Eastern Europe to Africa to Asia. America probably won't work, I'm afraid, because your evening time is when I'm asleep. So yes, if you are interested, do sign up. I really am so excited to work with some of you guys. And for group classes and one-to-ones, of course, you will have lots and lots of feedback. We can do tasks. I can mark essays for you and help you guys to improve. So do sign up. Okay, well, thank you for watching. I hope that this was useful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.